Welcome back to the channel. Today we bring you a shocking story of a man who refused to back down in the face of corruption. What happens when a black man, wrongfully targeted by racist cops, shows them that they made the biggest mistake of their lives? Well, just wait until you see what happens next. Before we dive in, let me know in the comments where in the world you're watching from. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to stay updated with stories that reveal the truth and demand justice. The night was cold, with a shrill hum of police radios cutting through the air. Red and blue lights flickered off brick walls as yellow crime scene tape waved like a warning flag across the entrance of a dark alley behind Faze. The Silver Leaf Lounge, a rundown bar known for chaos. Two patrol cops, Officers Ray Dugan and Kyle Mercer, leaned against their squad car, sipping cheap gas station coffee. Ray, tall with a square jaw and a southern drawl, chuckled as he elbowed Kyle. "You see that drunk woman try to swing at me early? Man, I should have cuffed her just for being dumb." Kyle laughed. "You'd need backup to arrest half the folks in this neighborhood." All bark, no brains. That's when they noticed him. A tall black man in a charcoal trench coat walked slowly up the sidewalk. No fear, no rush, just a silent presence that seemed to thicken the air. He carried a small leather notebook and wore black gloves, his posture calm but observant. He stopped just before the tape, eyes fixed on the covered body in the alley. Dugan raised an eyebrow. Hey, he shouted, stepping forward. "You can't be here. This is a crime scene." The man didn't flinch. He didn't even look at Dugan. Not immediately. Kyle added with a smirk, "You lost, buddy. This ain't no community tour." Still no response. Ray moved closer, annoyed. "Did you hear me, boy? That word, that tone." The man finally turned his head, not sharply, just slowly enough to show that he was choosing to acknowledge them. His voice, when it came, was quiet but carried weight. "I'm observing," Kyle snorted. "Observing? What are you, a tourist?" "No explanation," Ray barked. "Put your hands where I can see them." The man calmly closed his notebook and slid it into his coat. "Are you always this quick to escalate?" Ray stepped over the tape. "Hands. Now." The man raised both hands, showing open palms. "I'm compliant." Kyle approached from the side, reaching for his handcuffs. "Got something in the coat, huh? Gonna be a long night for you, genius." The man didn't resist, but he didn't hide his disappointment either. "You're making a mistake." "Yeah?" Ray scoffed. "You made the mistake stepping into our scene like you're somebody." He was shoved against the patrol car, his arms wrenched behind him. "I didn't resist," the man said calmly. "Resisting's not the problem," Kyle muttered. "Looking like you don't belong is." Ray chuckled. "Man thinks he's above the law. Bet he's a YouTuber or some TikTok wannabe." People began to gather at a distance. Cell phones came out. A few voices murmured from behind parked cars. "What's going on?" Someone whispered. From the cuffs, the man asked, "What was the call? What brought you here?" Kyle paused. "Dead body. Tip from an anonymous source. And did either of you check for a weapon?" "Did you look for a wallet or ID?" Ray scoffed. "You think we need help from you? I think you're missing something," the man replied coolly. Ray leaned in. "You got a smart mouth. Keep it up and I'll find something to charge you with." "I suggest you radio your supervisor," the man said. "Now." Kyle burst out laughing. "Oh, he's one of those. Thinks name-dropping will save him." Ray muttered. "Let's run his eye. If he's got one." They pulled out his wallet, opened it, and froze. Inside wasn't just a license. It was a federal ID. Kyle blinked. "Wait." Ray stepped back. A small black badge case lay beneath the ID, embossed in silver. "Federal Bureau of Investigation." The man looked over his shoulder. "You should really call your supervisor now." But he wasn't smug. He wasn't gloating. He was disappointed. The man finally turned, cuffed and all, and met their eyes fully for the first time. "My name is Agent Nathaniel Cross. I was sent here as part of an ongoing federal homicide investigation that your department was briefed on 3 days ago." Kyle's jaw dropped. "You're kidding," Agent Cross continued, calm as ever. "You ignored protocol, you tampered with a federal scene, and you unlawfully detained a federal officer." The officers turned pale. Before they could utter another word, a black SUV screeched to a halt behind the squad car. Out stepped a woman in a dark suit with a visible earpiece. "Agent Cross," she barked. "We lost your signal. You all right?" Cross nodded. Physically, yes. She glared at the cops. Who are these clowns? Ray fumbled with the cuffs, trying to unlock them. W, we didn't know. He didn't show anything. Did you ask? She snapped. No, ma'am. You just saw a black man at a crime scene and assumed he didn't belong. Neither officer responded. Agent Cross rubbed his wrists as the cuffs came off. This is why people don't trust your back. Behind them, more black vehicles pulled in. Cross's team, federal agents with gear, gloves and evidence kits. Within seconds, the entire crime scene transformed. The local police were pushed to the perimeter. Ray and Kyle stood frozen. What they thought was a routine call had just turned into a federal nightmare. Agent Cross didn't gloat. He simply walked past them, re-entered the crime scene, and began giving directions. But in their minds, everything had changed. They had laughed at a black man. They had mocked his silence. They had underestimated him. And now, they were about to learn what happens when respect is replaced with arrogance. The scene was already charged with tension, but it got worse the moment the laughter began. 3 police officers stood at the edge of the yellow tape, smirking. 2 had their arms folded across their chests, while the third, Officer Radley, pointed a finger at the black man standing alone near the burned-out vehicle. You lost or something, he called out mockingly. The man didn't respond. He stood still, composed, wearing dark jeans and a plain black jacket. His face was unreadable, but his eyes were sharp, watching everything. He looked calm, too calm, and for men like Radley, that was a problem. Hey, I'm talking to you, the second cop, Officer Hale, barked, stepping forward. This is an active crime scene, and you've got no business being here. The man still didn't move. Sir, the third officer chimed in with mock courtesy. We're gonna need you to step back before we assume you're interfering. That's when Radley crossed the line. He walked up, chest puffed, and stood face to face with the man. What's the matter, cat, got your tongue? You think standing here and looking mysterious gives you some kind of power? Still, no reaction. That only made Radley angrier. You're lucky I'm not writing you up right now, or maybe I should pat you down and check for drugs, huh? From behind, Officer Hale laughed. Bet he's filming a rap video or something. That did it. The man exhaled slowly, then reached into his pocket. 3 hands flew to 3 guns. Wow, Radley yelled. Hands up now. The man froze, then slowly pulled out a black leather wallet. Calmly, without a word, he flipped it open, and there it was, the glint of gold, the letters, FBI, Agent Malcolm Devontae Rivers. The air changed in an instant, the laughter died, jaws clenched, back straightened. Officer Hale dropped his gaze to the pavement. Radley's hand hovered awkwardly near his holster, suddenly unsure what to do with it. Malcolm tucked the badge away, and finally spoke. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, maybe you'd like to explain why your perimeter is unsecured. Your evidence is exposed to rain, and your body cam has been blinking red since I arrived. Silence. He stepped past them, calmly, like he owned the ground he walked on, and crouched beside the wrecked car. Flames had long died out, but the smell of gasoline and scorched metal lingered. With gloved fingers, he lifted a melted phone from the asphalt and slid it into a bag. Officer Radley found his voice again. You can't just come here and... I can, and I did, Malcolm replied without turning. This scene is tied to a federal case. Your department was notified last night. That's a lie, Radley snapped. We don't answer to the feds. Malcolm rose and turned fully toward them. He was taller than all 3, but it wasn't his height that made them step back. It was the weight of his presence. That quiet confidence that comes from knowing exactly who you are and how much power you hold. I don't need you to answer to me, he said, but your department is about to answer for this mess. Because if you'd taken 3 seconds to check your radio logs, you'd see the warning. Do not interfere with federal surveillance team on site. That team was me. Officer Hale stammered. Wait, you were the one inside. Malcolm's stare shut him up. Before anyone could speak again, a black SUV pulled up, tinted windows hiding the driver. The passenger door opened, and a tall black woman in a gray tactical jacket stepped out. She moved fast, unbothered by the tension, and walked straight to Malcolm. Director says you're cleared for override, she said quietly. He nodded. Take the footage. Get everything we need before they touch it. Officer Radley stepped in. Now hold on a minute. Who are you people? The woman flashed her own badge. Special Agent Camille Brooks, FBI. Radley's face drained of color. By now, a small group of civilians had started to gather on the sidewalk, phones held up, filming. They'd caught the shouting, they'd caught the tension, and now they were catching the slow unraveling of 3 officers who had let their assumptions get the best of them. And then came the media van. Local Channel 7. A female reporter stepped out with her cameraman, rushing toward the crime scene with questions. "Sir, is it true this site is part of a federal operation?" Officer Hale tried to block her path. "No comment. Let her through," Malcolm said without looking. "She's already got the story." "But Agent Rivers," Camille warned. He raised a hand. "It's time they see how quickly a narrative changes when we show up wearing a badge instead of a hoodie." The reporter's microphone was now inches from his face. "Agent Rivers, what can you tell us about the events leading up to your arrival here?" Malcolm stared into the lens. "3 local officers attempted to detain me without cause. They mocked me, threatened force, and escalated without provocation, all while I was on federal duty. You'll see it on their body cams if they haven't already wiped the footage." The reporter blinked. "You're saying this was racially motivated?" "I'm saying," Malcolm said carefully, "that sometimes the badge we wear isn't the one they see first, and that's a national problem." Behind the camera, murmurs rose. Officer Radley looked like he was about to explode. "This is a circus." "No," Malcolm said. "This is accountability." As Camille secured the last evidence sample and handed it to Malcolm, he paused. Something flickered across his face. Not anger, not revenge, just focus. The type of focus that comes right before everything changes. Because this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The temperature had dropped slightly as the sun set over Franklin Avenue. Red and blue lights still blinked like sirens from a bad dream, and the crime scene tape fluttered in the wind like a warning no one listened to. Agent Jordan Brooks stood silently now, leaning against a parked patrol SUV, arms crossed, eyes surveying everything. The mockery had stopped, but the tension hadn't. Across the street, Officers Ray and Dunlap whispered like cornered kids, clearly rattled since Jordan's badge reveal. But the real trouble hadn't even started. "Sir, Agent Brooks," a shaky voice asked from behind. It was a younger female officer, Officer Kelly. She approached cautiously, her eyes darting between the other officers and Jordan's unreadable face. "I didn't know who you were or what you were doing here earlier," she said. "Please understand." Jordan raised a hand. "I'm not interested in apologies." Kelly froze. "I'm here because a 14-year-old black kid bled to death on these steps," he said, pointing to the doorway now surrounded by forensic markers and chalk outlines. "And your entire team laughed when I asked questions." She glanced down. "Where's the body cam footage?" he demanded suddenly. Her eyes widened. It's being downloaded right now. I want all the footage, now." Kelly nodded and rushed off. From across the scene, Chief Redmond finally appeared. He was a heavy-set man with too much confidence and too little accountability. The kind of man who smiled while cities burned. "Agent Brooks," Redmond called out like greeting an old friend. "Didn't know the feds were sniffing around this corner of town." Jordan didn't smile. "You've had 3 shootings in a week, all victims black, all shooters white, and in every one the footage mysteriously malfunctioned." Redmond's smile faltered slightly. "Careful with those assumptions, Agent. We don't like conspiracy theories." "Neither does Internal Affairs," Jordan shot back, "and I know for a fact they've already subpoenaed your server logs." Redmond's jaw clenched. Just then Officer Kelly returned, holding a hard drive. "This has the full body cam footage, time-stamped." "Thank you," Jordan said, taking it carefully. "I didn't sign up for this," she added quietly. "I joined to help people, not whatever this has become." Jordan looked at her for the first time with some softness. "Then help me clean it up." She nodded and stepped back. Suddenly, from inside the taped-off building, there was a yell. "Agent, we found something." Jordan and a few others rushed into the hallway. The building was low-income housing. Cracked floors, peeling paint. A place no child should have had to die. A forensic agent handed Jordan a cell phone and an evidence bag. This belonged to the victim. He was recording when he got shot. It uploaded directly to his cloud. Jordan froze. "Play it," he said. A laptop was connected quickly, and the video was cast onto a portable screen. The room filled with the boy's nervous breathing. The video showed him standing in the hallway, hands up, while a voice screamed, "Get down." "I'm just going home," the boy shouted. 3 shots fired. The screen went black. No weapon, no aggression, just fear. Jordan's fists clenched, and then he heard the laughter. Rewinding the video back a few seconds revealed the same 2 officers, Ray and Dunlap, laughing before approaching the boy, guns already drawn. "Got another one, huh?" Dunlap's voice said. Jordan turned to Redmond, who had gone pale. "You're done," Jordan said coldly. "You don't have the authority." Jordan held up his phone. "I already sent this to the Justice Department." Outside, the press had gathered. Word was getting out. Protesters were forming a line across the sidewalk. Signs read, "Enough is enough," and justice for Malik." Jordan stepped outside, and the crowd grew quiet. "An unarmed teenager was murdered here last night," he began. "His name was Malik. He did nothing wrong. And tonight, we saw proof of what happened." He held up the phone in the evidence bag. "Let this be known. Justice will not be delayed, denied, or debated." The crowd erupted in applause, tears, and shouting. Back at the scene, Officer Ray tried to sneak toward his cruiser, but Jordan's backup, an unassuming white man in plain clothes, appeared from the shadows and intercepted him. "You're not going anywhere," he said. Ray was cuffed, his rights read on live TV. Dunlap followed moments later. Inside his earpiece, Jordan heard confirmation from his FBI team. "Warrants secured. Chief Redmond is next." Jordan nodded. Redmond, watching all this, tried to puff up. "I still run this precinct," he barked. Jordan walked up slowly and looked him dead in the eye. "Not anymore." He handed him a folder. "Official suspension. Turn in your badge." As the chief fumbled, cameras clicked and civilians gasped. Jordan turned to walk away when a child ran up to him. "Are you the man that's gonna stop the bad cops?" the little boy asked. Jordan knelt, looking him square in the eye. "No, we are." The moment the FBI agent stepped into the scene, the entire atmosphere shifted. Officer Hayes, who had been smirking just moments before, was now at a loss for words. The other officers remained frozen, unsure of what to do next. The bystanders who had gathered were now whispering, clearly unsettled by the sudden change in authority. "Who the hell do you think you are?" Officer Rodriguez spat out, glaring at Agent Hayes. His hands were shaking, but his voice still carried the arrogance of someone who believed they were in control. "I'm the one who just became your worst nightmare," Agent Hayes responded calmly. His eyes locked with Rodriguez's, and for a moment, it was like time had stopped. The power had shifted, and everyone in the vicinity could feel it. The officer tried to take a step forward, but Agent Hayes raised his hand, stopping him in his tracks. He motioned for the officers around them to step back. "You're done," Agent Hayes said, his voice as cold as steel. Behind him, federal agents moved swiftly to secure the area. They began taking photos, collecting evidence, and interviewing the stunned witnesses. Meanwhile, the once confident officers were now reduced to mere bystanders, their bravado evaporating in the face of the overwhelming presence of federal authority. "Get them out of here," Agent Hayes ordered, his voice firm. Two agents stepped forward and started leading the racist officers away, their hands now cuffed behind their backs. "You can't do this. We have rights," one of the officers yelled, but no one was listening anymore. The tables had turned, and now it was the officers who were the ones being detained. "Rights?" Agent Hayes repeated, a smirk forming on his lips. "You had no regard for anyone else's rights when you treated that man like dirt." He motioned toward the victim's body, still covered by a black sheet. "Now it's time for you to answer for your actions." The agents quickly moved to collect all the body camera footage from the officers involved. One by one, they were stripped of their badges, guns, and radios. The scene was completely transformed from chaos to order in just a matter of moments. The bystanders who had witnessed the entire ordeal were in shock. Many of them were still recording on their phones, documenting the dramatic turn of events. The realization that the FBI was now in control sent a wave of relief through the crowd. One woman, who had been watching from the sidelines, stepped forward. "Is it over? Is justice finally being done?" Agent Hayes looked at her, his expression softening. "It's just beginning," he said, his eyes scanning the area. "These officers will face the consequences of their actions, and the truth will come to light. But more importantly, we need to make sure this doesn't happen again." As he spoke, a new wave of federal agents arrived, their vehicles pulling up to the scene. They were here to support, to gather evidence, and to ensure that justice was served. The atmosphere had shifted from tension to hope, and it was clear that things would never be the same. The crowd, now thick with murmurs and gasps, watched as Agent Hayes stood tall amidst the chaos. His presence was unwavering, like a force of nature that could not be contained. The officers who had just moments ago been laughing and mocking now stood humiliated and handcuffed in front of the federal agents, their once proud postures slumped in defeat. Agent Hayes turned back to the officers who had been involved in the altercation. "I want every officer who had a hand in this investigation placed under review. Their body cameras will be analyzed, their statements cross-checked. No one gets a free pass for what happened here today." One of the younger officers, barely out of his 20s, spoke up. His voice shook as he stepped forward. We didn't know he was FBI." His words were a weak defense, and they did nothing to erase the shame of the situation. "That's the point," Agent Hayes replied, his eyes piercing through the officer. "You didn't know because you didn't take the time to care who he was. You assumed you could treat him like trash, like you've done with so many others, just because of his skin color. You've been doing it for years, and you thought you'd get away with it." As he spoke, the federal agents continued their work. The scene, once filled with tension, now exuded an air of calm authority. Every officer involved was being detained or questioned. They were forced to stand under the weight of their actions, with nowhere to hide. The victim's body had been removed, but the damage was done. The events of the day would leave a mark on the community, and no amount of apologies or justifications could undo the harm that had been caused. However, Agent Hayes was determined to ensure that justice was served. "I want all evidence compiled and logged," Agent Hayes continued. "This is now a federal case. The people who have been wronged will see justice, and the guilty will pay the price for their actions." The protesters who had gathered on the outskirts of the scene began chanting, their voices growing louder. "Justice for everyone," they shouted. "End the brutality." Their voices reverberated through the air as the community rallied together. They weren't just protesting the actions of a few corrupt officers. They were fighting for a future where people, no matter their color, would be treated with respect and dignity. Agent Hayes turned to the gathered press, who had now arrived in full force. He didn't speak to them immediately, but instead waited for the right moment. A reporter holding a microphone shouted, "Agent Hayes, what happens next? Will the officers be held accountable?" "Absolutely," Hayes responded firmly. "There will be an internal investigation, a full review of all body cam footage, and charges will be filed where necessary. This is just the beginning." As he spoke, a call came through on his phone. His face tightened as he answered. "Yes, Director, I'm on it. I'll make sure everything's in order. We're making sure every officer involved is held accountable." He hung up the phone and looked at the team of federal agents, signaling for them to continue their work. In the distance, a man in a suit walked up to Agent Hayes, his face grim. It was the precinct's chief, a man who had been trying to maintain order amidst the chaos. "You've turned this precinct upside down," the chief muttered, his voice heavy with anger. "I've got people in my department who've been working hard for years, and now you're throwing it all away." Hayes looked at him coolly. "Your people have been working hard at covering up a systemic problem, not solving it. You've let corruption fester for too long, and now it's time for the truth to come out." The chief bristled, but there was nothing he could say. He knew Hayes was right. The weight of the truth hung over him like a cloud he could no longer avoid. Just as the final set of officers was being escorted away, a phone rang out loudly, breaking the silence. It was the same phone that had been ringing in the background throughout the whole ordeal. It was the line to the Department of Justice, and it was time for the final confirmation. Agent Hayes took the call. His eyes narrowed as he listened, and then he gave a sharp nod. He turned back to the gathered crowd of officers, the press, and the protesters. "It's official," he said, his voice strong. "The investigation is federal, and we are pressing charges. Every officer involved in this case, from the one who fired the shot to the ones who covered it up, will be held accountable." The crowd erupted in applause. The sense of victory was palpable, but it was mixed with sadness, the realization that it shouldn't have taken so long for justice to be served. As the cameras clicked and reporters shouted questions, Agent Hayes turned away from the crowd and walked to the victim's family, where the victim's mother was standing quietly, her eyes filled with grief. "Your son didn't die in vain," Hayes said quietly. "We will make sure that his death leads to change." The woman nodded, tears filling her eyes, but there was a small flicker of hope in them now. The change had begun.